want you to imagine a scenario. Imagine the scenario where COVID breaks out, and for whatever reason, the mainstream media is saying that we should be very careful about experimental drugs. And these journalists start bringing up all these stories about different drugs where you could see how they chose very specific tests and that some of their tests, some of their studies didn't go well at all, and they buried those and they're allowed to do so. And about how they've killed thousands and thousands of people with these drugs that they knew were bad for them. And if the journalists were saying this, but the podcasters were all going, you need to trust the science. Everyone should be vaccinated. Be vaccinated or you're a fucking plague rat. Imagine if the podcasters were calling the unvaccinated plague rats. Imagine if the podcasters were encouraging medical misinformation. But my point is, imagine the backlash right now where there's none coming their way.
Yeah.
There's zero. It's like everyone forgot about it. It all went away.
Well, I'm debating
we
Chris
would be
Cuomo.
In jail.
I'll be debating Chris Cuomo in a few days, so that'll be fun.
Bro,
for that.
We would be in jail. All these people that are dropping dead. All these people with strokes, all these people with heart attacks, all these people with what was the AstraZeneca thing that I sent you today?
Yeah. What was
AstraZeneca? They were saying that 11% of the people had an adverse side effect.
And like serious adverse side effects. Yeah, but even as you lay out this scenario, doesn't it almost in some way be like it feels like that makes more sense? What would make more sense was that comedians like me and you would have just been saying the dumb thing and repeating it.
Yeah.
But the person in a suit and tie at CNN, I mean, this dude's a professional newsman. Like, he knows what's going on.
They would make a very good argument for ending podcasts.
Sure.
They'd make a very good argument for prosecuting people, class action lawsuits, all the people that encourage these podcasters with their limited, you don't even have a medical degree and you're on the internet telling people what to do, which is exactly what they did.
They did, even though we were getting everything right. And now most of them will admit that we were right.
Now when you see Chris Cuomo and Patrick Bet-David spinning it.
Listen, I don't want to go too hard right now because I want him to show up. But the fact that, and I will make sure to bring this up to him, but the fact that what he said, and if you listen to it, he literally goes, as he's explaining that he is on ivermectin, he goes, now a lot of people are going to say Joe Rogan is right, and then he has a moment where he pauses, realizes he can't even come up with anything, and he goes, all right, Joe Rogan was right, and then goes on to say exactly what you've been saying for years now, that just the most basic thing that anyone who did 5 minutes of research could have figured out, which there's no controversy in any of this, that ivermectin has been given to humans billions of times, that it's a safe drug, and that there were some indications that it might help with COVID, and that it's not horse dewormer, but the fact that that's not attached to like a profuse apology, be like, hey, I'm like, if I couldn't imagine a scenario where I had like viciously smeared someone for something, then realized he was 100% right and I was 100% wrong. And when acknowledging that, I wouldn't also go, hey, I'm really sorry about that.
Dude, I think there's a cult-like thinking in mainstream media, whether they know they're being influenced by their sponsors or they're not. But I don't even think they understand how crazy it is. When I had Sanjay Gupta on, Sanjay Gupta is a very nice man. I think he's a good man. I really do. And he's a surgeon. I mean, he's very busy. The guy is constantly working. And he comes in to give medical information and give this, lay things out for CNN. And I think he thinks he's doing the right thing. When they asked him to be on the podcast, I don't know what they thought was going to happen. I think they thought they were right. I really do.
I think my guess, and this is just a guess, but I have been in that world a little bit. Like I worked for CNN for a year, and I've done a lot of shows on Fox News, and I've met a lot of people, and talked to a lot of people who work at CNN and Fox News. And my guess on it is that, number one, he had a book. So they want to sell copies of the book, and they know you have the biggest show And so they're like, oh, this will be really good. And then I also think there's this thing where they all really do feel like we're the experts. And they know they're the experts because, I mean, I just got off the phone with, the chief of staff of the White House. And I know that, they're very into that kind of like that world where I've talked to everyone with status. And I think there's hubris involved where they're like, you'll be able to handle whatever a comedian throws at you. Like, you're a medical expert and he's not. But then you would just ask really basic questions, which my favorite was when he goes, so are you going to get the vaccine? And you were like, well, no, I just had COVID. I have natural immunity. And you were like, why should I get the vaccine? And he had no answer. And this was at a time when they were rolling out vaccine passports. And the whole line was just, you have to get the vaccine or you're a bad person. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And then he just demonstrated on your show that there was this huge category of people who have had COVID already, who he had no argument for why they should get the thing.
But not only that, there had already been research that showed that natural immunity from previous infection was up to 7 times better at preventing new cases of
Which
COVID.
is consistent across viruses.
Of
Like, it's
course.
always better to have natural immunity. The vaccine is always trying to simulate natural immunity.
This is what was so fucked. Look, I'm no scholar. I'm not a smart guy. I'm a normal person. There's nothing special about my brain. And I'm seeing all this stuff, and I'm like, why isn't anybody speak? I started to feel like I was going crazy. Like, am I going crazy for not just letting them shoot me up with this stuff after I got COVID, just so I let everybody know I'm on the team?
Right.
Because there's this pull. There's a fucking societal pull that even me who was like, I know this is ridiculous. This is making, all the people I've talked to, all the research I've done on previous diseases, and my research is reading other people's, I'm not doing, it's a bad word.
Sure,
Reading that I've done, Jimmy Dore has a great bit about that.
It's so funny.
About,
I love it.
Don't do your own research. It used to be called reading. Jimmy Dore is awesome. I love him.
Jimmy Dore. That's a great bit.
In my limited looking at this, I was like, something's wrong here. There's this mass societal push. They're trapped in like a mind virus of this one particular solution. And Dr. Robert Malone laid what that is, like psychologically what happens when one thing is offered that seems to be the solution out of this existential crisis, this horrible situation that we're in. And anybody who opposes getting out. And you got to be on that side, all in. And you got to believe even in the pharmaceutical drug companies.